Welcome back. I'm Diggins E71. My name is Dylan. We are here for day 2 at Hardway. Gonna try to get the truck buttoned up today. Stayed pretty late the other night, as late as we felt like we needed to. Got a few things done. But today, our main goal is to try to finish up the crossover pipe. I talked about moving the wastegate over from the passenger side to the driver's side. We're still looking around at that, trying to figure out exactly what we're gonna do, but goal number 1 for tonight is to finish the crossover pipe, and then hopefully we can get started on the downpipe. The downpipe is going to be a much more involved process, and I actually have my intercooler lines. I have like my dome sensor, my boost valve. All of those things are wired directly in the path of where I want to put the downpipe. So those things all are going to need to get moved. So in order for those things to get moved, I want to do it the right way. I would say that my wiring now is adequate. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's nice, clean, secure connections. Run from one link to the other. But if I'm going to move them and things are going to get moved around, I want to do it a little bit better than even what I have now. If I need to pick up a 5 volt for a sensor, if I need to pick up a ground, I want to be able to do that easier. I want to plan ahead for any possible sensors I may or may not add. And then I've also even considered adding in a couple of pigtails for optional sensors. So with the Holley, the Terminator X like I have, you can have 4 inputs and outputs, and that sort of limits you on what you can and can't collect. So as far as inputs go, there are a few things that are unavoidable I have to have. The first of which is my trans brake. I have to have a button that tells the trans brake to work. Second, I have to have a staging control or a staging input number 2 that works as my bump. So those things with the current configuration that I have are relatively set in stone. I can't change those. Those are what they're going to be. Currently, I have a third input as a dome sensor, and I don't really use it that much, but I think I want to make the switch over to CO2 boost control, which is going to require the dome sensor, so I don't really want to get rid of that. The fourth input that I have currently is an ethanol content sensor. Now, I had that because originally when I built the truck, I built it with the idea that I'd be on E85 or ethanol-based fuels, and that's just hasn't been the case. C16 has been too readily available. It's expensive, but it's more available to me than ethanol-based fuels are. So that's where I've been at. It has the same stoic ratio basically as pump gas, so there's no additional tuning changes really needed to make it work. Sure, it is very hard on O2 sensors. It's just been the go-to fuel for me. Now maybe there'll be a time where I do take the time to swap over to ethanol, but it just hasn't happened yet. So I think I want to get rid of that ethanol sensor. Well, I started thinking about it, and that just because I don't want to use it doesn't mean I want to get rid of it. And there's a couple of sensors that ideally I would like to have that follow in the same suit. So I'm trying to make this wiring as I change it, and it won't be today, it won't be tomorrow, it'll be down the road. But I want to make this wiring set up in such a way that if I want to swap sensors, then I can do that, and then I can just go back into my Holley and checkbox whichever thing I want to monitor. So if, for example, I'm concerned about tuning with flex fuel, like if I'm in such a place where I'm stuck in a situation where I have to mix pump gas and ethanol-based fuel, then I want to be able to do that. So the content sensor enables me to do it. But then 95% of the time, I'll either be on straight pump gas, straight C16, or possibly even straight E85. And those are all tune changes I can make that don't require a content sensor. So that sensor is relatively optional. But let's reel it all back in. Day 2, finish up the wastegate, start on the downpipe, and start considering what I want to do with these new wires. So let's go get started. Precision. Unmatched precision. Is this more precision stuff?
Yes. Highly precision.
Highly precision.
Highly precision.
All right, that's digging approved. Why are you grinding on that so much?
Oh, gotta make it air, hold air.
Gotta make our hold air.
Hold air.
Why is it that you want it to come in at such an angle like that? Because this is going to be our gate, right? Our gate's going to okay.
Yep. Nice, even flow.
All right. Step out here where you can get away from the noise a little bit. So you heard him mention flow. So when you have, anything that's horsepower derivative, flow is very important. Now, when it comes to wastegates, their performance is significantly affected by flow. So when you have a wastegate, its sole function and its sole purpose is to bleed off exhaust gases that are headed towards the turbo. They are there to slow the turbo down, to slow the turbine down, in order to make less boost. So as in any system, air is going to take the path of least resistance. So if you have the turbo, you know, as an efficient path, then that's great. Now, when it comes to your wastegates, if you have them in an inefficient place, that's not great, because they would rather exit through the efficient way. They would rather exit through the turbo. Now, what did we just talk about? If you exit through the turbo as opposed to the wastegate, you're now increasing boost, which is fine, but only when you want it to do that. So the best way to do that is to improve the flow to your wastegate. So if you can make it flow on the most seamless path possible into the gate, then your gate is going to perform the best that it can. And by that means you have the most steady control. You don't have conditions that cause creep, where the gate kind of gets to a point and pegs and then continues making boost. Now, that happens a lot with very poor setups. So you want the path to go to the wastegate as seamless as possible with as much flow as possible. So it's like I said, that makes the boost control steadier, it makes it more repeatable, it makes it consistent, and it just makes the gate perform exactly the way it should, and under the conditions that you need to race the best that you can. So Mike is in there, he's making a really long, deep cut. It's a deep cut through there, and it's gonna be a nice and smooth, almost, you know, straight shot into the gate. So if you had your gate at a 90-degree angle as opposed to this steep one that we have, a 90-degree angle is going to be less flow. Now, I'm not telling you that it won't work. My previous gate setup didn't have a great angle at all. It was just about as good as we could get it in the position that it was in, and it happened to work fine. You know, it worked adequately. And you'll find setups that do that. There's setups that look like, oh, that gate position will never work, and they do just fine. But it doesn't change the fact that if you can make it better, you should, and that's what we're doing here. So we have decided to move the gate over to the driver's side, and that's going to give us the most direct flow. It's going to give us the most room on the passenger side to put our downpipe in later. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're working on. Wastegate flow. It's important. Getting all that flow there, man. Getting all that flow there, boy.
Ideally, you'd want it on a bend.
Yeah. That's pretty good, though. Yeah, so as you heard him, you would say, and like I was just talking about flow, so obviously the exhaust is traveling this direction. If you could run the gate straight out this side, which I have a torsion bar and a frame rail here, but if you could run the gate straight out here and hang it right on the side, that's going to be among your best flow. Or even on this side, straight off the bottom, anywhere. But we just don't have the real estate to do that here. So the next best option is to cut a long, shallow groove and get her cut up and cut in. So as you can see, the old and busted here, this is not a great spot. It was as close to a bend as I could get. I tried to get it around this direction as far as we could, but there just wasn't the real estate to work with. So basically this is what we were left with. Now my gate worked fine. It functioned adequately, I would say. But what we have next is going to be much, much better. You know, it's a good thing that I can't weld, because I'd have glued that stuff together a long time ago.
I don't doubt it.
My good buddy, Mr. Mike, is putting in the effort on this. And he has a nice shirt. Precision. Talked about flow. That should be plenty, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Precisely.
Yeah. We'll feed the whole 60mm gate with that 6mm hole.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. Time to back it up. All right, so nobody told you that you were doing something wrong last time.
No.
Let's do this part 2. Yep, that is definitely wrong. See how close our precision guesswork was. Let me tighten that. Yep, spin the sensor over and be good to go. Alright, so that's going to do it for tonight. We got the crossover pretty much finished up. We got it all tacked into place and test fitted in exactly the way that we want it. We made sure the gate placement was going to be good and the flow to the gate was even better. So we're going to see if we can get it tackled and finished up in a few days. Thanks for watching.